If you've ever felt homicidal at the thought of the lives of Brandon, Brenda, Kelly, Steve, Dylan, and Donna, then Beverly Kills 50187 is definitely in the Haugh, and it's just this way. At the Dim Carnival.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And we got the dog beats.
You are.
This is the Dim Carnival. It's a chronological sort of journey through the catalog, the oeuvre of ICP, the Wicked Clowns, from three people who don't listen to ICP anymore, but used to.
Well, I don't know how long can we say that once we've been listening to ICP most days.
Probably the last week.
Right.
Well,
I've been listening to a lot of ICP lately.
Yeah. I've been listening to Scorpions China White because I got to learn it for the band, and then I've been listening to ICP, and that's pretty much all I've been listening to. So
it's pretty much the same thing.
Wow. Amazing. I wonder if this is gonna spark a renaissance.
The Doobie Brothers China Grove, and then that's all of the music that you ever need.
David Bowie's China Girl?
Yep, monster vocals. We listened to the EP Beverly Kills 50187, and Beverly Hills is a rich suburb of Detroit, in addition to being a rich suburb of the other place.
Los Angeles.
Right. But the 50187, I don't know what the Detroit area code is, but I don't think it ends in 187. But
it probably doesn't start with 50.
So ICP.
So that song has double meaning?
Yeah. Throughout this EP, they will speak. We will get to it. They will speak about going into the suburbs and attacking rich people.
Right.
So they're talking about the suburbs of Detroit, mi barrio, as
my God, I'm so excited.
as distinctly Chicago, Joe Bruce will soon. But
I'm sorry.
We're also talking about Beverly Hills 90210, which was for sure a thing as this was happening.
Right. That's not a coincidence.
And we will
Yes.
we will go ahead and start with the title track, the first song, Beverly Kills 50187, which starts with a parody of
Welcome to my world as it winds and it twists. I'ma kick a funky little rhyme that you missed. Boo, loo, chewy, wooey, doo, boo. And you'd be fucked up if that was really voodoo. Come see the...
Is something happening?
I just know where you're going. I'm already laughing.
It starts with
the intro's awful.
a parody of the Warriors, the most famous. The Warriors.
It's so bad.
The bottle on its hands.
I mean, the bottle hands sound effect. It's got to be real, right? That's
I'm positive they're using the actual
real
sound.
Foley. I mean, you don't have to get designer bottles to do that. So
this is jugglers, not juggalos.
Nope, we're not to juggalo yet.
He says it with a hard R because he can say that word, but he says jugglers come out to play. Yay! But my first observation of this song when I played it, we have at this point been talking about Carnival of Carnage for 3 weeks, I believe, possibly 4. I've lost all sense of time. And the second that the song kicked in, I was like, oh, this is like a quantum leap forward in terms of getting close to what we know of Insane Clown Posse, like what we think of fondly.
Are you kidding me?
My second realization was that, oh, this is more than one song, this first song.
Yes.
What I wanted to say is that I did not realize, to both the two of you and to our listeners, I did not realize that this EP was 40 minutes long when I suggested that we listen to this EP. So I apologize for the time commitment, but it turns out less content in this EP than the entirety of Carnival of Carnage. So we'll be good to talk about it for an hour, I think.
Yeah.
So the first part of the title track is probably a song called Kiss the Clown, but it's only 90 seconds long, and then it becomes Beverly Kills 50187, and it's just 2 completely different songs that they've put together.
I made multiple notes, and actually the first time going through, I couldn't keep track of what song I was listening to, because I was listening to it on I was watching it on YouTube or whatever, recording of it on YouTube out in my garage. And so I never knew which track I was on, and I was trying to keep track so I could make notes or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, there's just multiple songs on one track, and each track is like 1 million minutes long.
The other caveat I think that we should talk about up front in the first track is that where the horrible part of listening to Carnival of Carnage was like rampant misogyny throughout, the theme of this EP is gay slurs.
Yes. Boy, really, really heavy on those.
And for both types of gay people.
I mean, what do you want? These are, so one of the first notes that I made is, these are, the subjects of this song are children. They're school kids.
Well,
they're in high school.
They're in high school, but at the same time, they're not talking about school kids. They're talking about the characters on 90210 who, by the 3rd or 4th episode airing, the running joke in pop culture was, well, these kids are all 40. I feel like they're very clearly talking about like the characters from the television show as characters from a television show, and not the characters of the television show really within the universe of the television show. But I could be wrong.
I saw it the way you saw it.
Am I the only one who has thoughts on the pre-50187 part of it? The Kiss the Clown part?
Well, I kind of saw it different, because like how you said it, you're like, here, this comes in and it's like entirely different. After coming off of listening to Carnival of Carnage and like being in agreement that like as much as like the things we found that we liked about it, it was a pretty awful album. And this album starts off and it has the audacity to start with a Warriors reference to like a great movie. So then they change it to be not even Juggalo yet, but Juggler, like you said. And they're doing that thing, and the beat comes in, and it's the exact same beat as like 3 different songs off of Carnival of Carnage. That was exactly what rang to me, and I was like, oh my god, what a bunch of assholes. Like, check us out. We're going to rip off the coolest movie ever and give you the exact same thing we gave you 3 times on the last album. That was how I interpreted that. And then it gets better when it turns into a new song.
Yeah, Ryan, you took exception to when I said Quantum Leap Forward, and I do now recognize that it's a very similar production and beat, but it just, the feeling of it felt different to me just from the couple of verses that we hear in this song here.
Well, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I said before, but when I started listening to it through this time, I had probably more of a similar experience to Bill, where it came on and it felt like a little bit refreshing of like, oh, okay, this is like a feeling of ICP that I'm used to feeling. And it felt really nice. Like as soon as it started, I was like, all right, cool. This is going to be, wow, this is better than I thought it was going to be, you know?
Yeah.
I remember I never owned any of these EPs, but my good friend, the one who introduced me to the band initially, he had them all. And so, but we never listened to them that much because we all basically thought that they were terrible. And so that was my memory of this going in, is that like I might have listened to it once and thought that it was bad.
Yeah, I expected the album to be as bad as the cover art is. and the truth is that I believe this EP is like many times better than Carnival of Carnage.
Yeah, there's some real bangers on here, you guys.
So
I'm going to agree with you with that. I definitely agree with you with that. But I just really hold on to that beat right after that skit was literally the same beat in 3 different songs on Carnival of Carnage, and it just hit me the wrong way. I was just like, that's not how you go into something different. And I agree with you that it's a better album than Carnival of Carnage. I realized after listening to it, I had heard these songs more than I thought I had, and but not in this order, super mixed up. Back in like 2007 or 8, I made a 100-song list on an iPod and listened to that. And I put songs on there I didn't know. And I may have listened to them once off of albums and threw them on that list. And as I slowly listened to them over time, I hear them, and I don't hear them in retrospect of these albums. I hear them in retrospect of like me listening to them during like video game stages. Oh, I was playing Grand Theft Auto 4 when I heard that song. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So these songs are like in a really weird order for me, and I appreciate them for different reasons. And so with all of that, that song still opened with, this is the same thing we gave you 3 songs earlier on Carnival of Carnage.
Before we get out of the Kiss the Clown intro part, I wanted to point out these lyrics, because this was what was so refreshing to me, is that like we're getting out of just straight horrorcore gangster rap. Violent J saying, "And I slip and slide like a slinky."
Yes.
That was it. You nailed it, Bill.
Slip and slide with my Twinkie.
Yes.
Welcome to my world as it winds and twists. I'm a kick a funky little rhyme that you missed. Boo-loo, chewy, wooey, doo-boo. And you'd be fucked
really
up if that was really voodoo.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
It's so good. Is this the first mention of voodoo? Is this a famous verse?
Yes. I believe it is.
I think you're right, yeah.
If they said the word voodoo in Carnival of Carnage, it wasn't in the context of like a voodoo incantation, which becomes a real
exactly.
running.
Yeah.
Yes, that was what I was going to agree with you. The
other famous first in this song. Maybe we could start like dropping a sound effect in or something. Famous first. This is the first time in ICP's chronology that they used the word Ned.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah,
But
the
first lyric. So 50187, the song proper, is they're in Beverly Hills 90210 and they're murdering all of the different characters. They killed Dylan first, and eventually he leads to their downfall because the cops find Dylan's sideburn poking out.
Yeah, of his locker. Yeah.
But I wanted to point out 2 Dopes rhymes here. First day I enrolled in the high school, butt naked with an axe.
Yes.
Again,
cool.
our first butt naked on this album.
Yes.
Wow, he's so cool. Stand up and say your name. Tell us about yourself. My name's 2 Dope, and I cut necks all to hell.
Yeah, man.
One of my favorite things about 2 Dope as a rapper is when he doesn't give any fuck at all and either refuses to finish a rhyme or refuses to start a rhyme. And they just have a standalone line.
He just kind of gives up.
Yeah, I know that this line finishes the spoken line that precedes it, tell us about yourself, but just my name's too dope and I cut necks all to hell is so perfect of his style, of his flow. Rich boy never seen a ghetto jokero slap you in the head with a sledgehammer.
Just force it in there. If you can't find it, grind it.
The interludes are them killing characters set to the Archie's Sugar Sugar.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say that when he kills a woman in a fish tank, he has two of what I thought are the funniest lines of the entire song.
They don't make any sense, man.
They don't. He's drowning her in a fish tank, and he starts mocking her at the end. He says, "What are you, a lungfish?" And then he says, "Ooh, what's up, Aquaman?"
Oh, it's terrible, man. Oh, that's terrible. It's hilarious, man.
Well, I mean, I just feel bad for Ryan because, like, yeah, this song's kind of messed up, but, like, I am triggered by the Stalker. Like, the song is awful.
No,
so
when we get there, that's
imagine
that song's fucked up.
Still, when we get to that, I just feel bad. Yeah, like.
The other thing I want to point out about the bad part, like the terrible parts of this song, they're about to kill, I assume, Kelly, who's Neddin's kind of smelly. They do the interlude, and Violent J is asking for said Neddin, because he says, "You're getting ready to die anyway. Let me get a little tang." You know what I'm saying? There's this really uncomfortable to listen to interlude, and then the next verse starts with, "Okay, because I'm not a raper."
Yeah.
So
yes.
So in listening to that the first time, I wrote, "What is this song? Like, what are they trying to do here?" And it really pushed me into this memory of the time that ICP was interviewed by Bill O'Reilly, who followed them to like a book signing or something. But Violent J's up at a bookstore like signing autographs, and this little kid comes up, and Violent J says, "Hey, what's up? Have your nuts dropped yet?" And then cuts to Bill O'Reilly, and he's like, "Why would you ask a kid that?" And Violent J's like, "Because I thought it'd be like controversial. I want to let him know that I'm cooler than his parents. They're probably stuck up. Like, you know, you think a kid doesn't know about balls?" But it made me think of that interview because to some extent, I noticed that there's this kind of duality, I guess, in the songs, where before we were getting on the call, I was listening to Dog Beats, and one of the rhymes in the first song, he says, "I rap to tell you how I feel." And that's a song that a young Joe Bruce wrote or whatever, you know, where he was like trying to say something. He wanted to tell a story. I don't know. He had ideas. And so sometimes I think, like, when I criticize this music or criticize the things that they say, I should consider that he's being sincere, you know, when he's saying certain things. But I also have this interview of him where he's like, "No, I just like say the controversial thing." And so sometimes I feel like they can go back and forth, that sometimes they are being heartfelt and do legitimately mean like that they hate racists, maybe, for example. But when they write a song about women being killed, and I hope this isn't just the like apologist white person in me, white man, you know, trying to find the silver lining or whatever, but like, I'm not too sure if I think maybe they think that they're trying to do something progressive, and they're just not good at it.
I think that this is a perfect example of where they're at this point in their careers, and stay there for a few more years, where they're like, okay, we're going to say some shocking stuff, and we're going to talk about killing people and abusing people, and we're going to say funny stuff that's meant to shock and entertain. We're murderers, but we're not bad guys. And the only way that they can figure out how to do that in this song is to be like, wouldn't it be funny if we were about to kill someone when we asked to hook up with them? And then we'll just say we're not rapists. Like, that's the level of the nuance in their music at this stage of their careers.
Well, and maybe, I don't know if we're wrapping up the discussion on this track, and Steve already mentioned the Stalker, which is coming a couple tracks later, but like, that song, I feel like, is definitely trying to do that. That he's like trying to explore this uncomfortable space to paint a man as a stalker. I should be talking about this when we go to that track.
Yeah, let's talk about it when we get there. The last thing I want to say about this song, the last thing I want to say about this song is that even though it doesn't shift musically as after the first 90 seconds when it's clearly a different song, it becomes a different song again at the end. when they've talked all this whole song about how they're going to kill the various characters of 90210. Now, when they get caught and they're being pursued, it turns into like an actual real ICP song where they're talking about like, and then I ran from the cops and I got hit by a bus and my legs came off, lost both my legs, so I'm running on my hands. Then I seen Prince, so I clapped because I'm a big fan, and straight busted my face on the street. But I really love that because I'm like, this is textbook Insane Clown Posse.
Yeah.
To me. In later years, it's like they either have a song about 90210 or they have a song about like running from the police and getting your legs ripped off. That's a whole ICP song in later years.
Well, and a shout out to Prince. You know?
Sure.
But yeah, I can't wait. So one of the things that I plan on doing is taking a photograph of my notes and posting it on the Instagram. But I can't wait to reveal that I have my last 2 notes on this song song is 9 minutes long. Also 3 songs.
Yeah, it is 3 songs. And that's a theme of this EP. All right, so should we move on to 17 Dead?
I don't give a fuck where you're from, boy. So don't tell me, cause I don't give a fuck. It's all about what's going on in your head. Do it, don't you care about the 17 dead? 17 dead in me body, yo. 17 dead in me.
Famous first, 17.
So, okay, so are we going to talk about 17? Because I don't know if is this a coincidence?
I think it might be. It's the first instance, but I think that it retroactively becomes important, but it's the first one.
Because there's a sample from a movie or something. I don't even know what it is. Oh, did we lose somebody?
Hello.
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 Steve, you sound like you're on the phone.
Does it not sound good?
Sounds fine. You're just coming to us, via satellite.
So this is it. This is the Dim Carnival. We're just a bunch of slow-witted, dumpy old guys.
Yeah. All right, 17 Dead.
17 Dead. So is 17, my question was, and I don't even know how much of this Steve heard, is 17, is that a coincidence? It can't possibly be a coincidence that it becomes an iconic number.
I think this is the first time it happened, and then retroactively it became a thing.
Well, and I don't remember where I got this explanation. I think it was from in the 6 Jokers card where they kind of revealed all secrets or whatever, that they explained that 17 was the number of albums that they sold from their first record. Yeah, so that's like from a movie or something? I can't even imagine what that's from. Juggalo historians, all of you Juggalo historians who are listening, tweet at us at Dim Carnival and tell me who the hell is that person? I assume
we'll even accept amateur Juggalo historians.
Right. Well, we're like 5 episodes in at this point. What? Right. So I just imagine that we're a hugely famous, enormous podcast, the #1 podcast in the world.
Well, we're basically the only Juggalo podcast, so
we are the #1 Juggalo podcast.
Let's talk about 17 Dead because I think it's real good.
All right. So first comment I wrote.
Yeah.
Jay's flow is good. Jay gets in a flow in this song, and it reminds me of that we were talking in the last album. I remember which track about how he does a certain Jay voices, and sometimes he does different of the Jay voices within a song or whatever. But this is the one. Like when it started, I was like, "Yep, that's one of those Jay voices."
I think eventually we'll develop a taxonomy of Jay voices.
Right.
As well we should. Like we'll identify like the iconic song in each J voice and then like refer to it as like this is the 17 Dead voice or like this is the chicken hunting voice or whatever.
Okay, I'm into it.
Or even more clever names than that.
So what I want to say about this song and every other song on this album, is there any possible way that they ever played these songs live? Each song is 3 different songs, and so I don't know if that's necessarily a problem for a live performance. But 17 Dead has, I think, 8 verses or something like that. Like, it just, you think the song's over, and then, nope, there's 3 more verses coming. And each verse is like a million stanzas. Like, there's no way he remembers. Like, I was thinking to myself, is there a chance that Violent J even remembers a single line from 17 Dead? Like all the albums and everything that he's wrote, if you walked up to him on the spot and was like, "What's your favorite line in 17 Dead?" He'd be like, "Shit, man, nobody knows any lines off that record."
I think that if they ever played any tracks off of this EP, 17 Dead was probably the one that they played.
I would like to think so, because it's great. It would be super fun to see live.
Because most of this song is 17 Dead, and then there's some like faux freestyle at the end, or maybe real freestyle. There's no way of knowing.
It's hard to tell. They're so bad at rapping. It could just
we'll get there, but I wanted to say production-wise, I love the little fake violin sting that happens in the verses. It's like very clearly, like when I was a kid, I had like a little toy Casio keyboard, and like you could flip the switch to like violin. And it didn't sound anything like a violin, but it sounded like the Casio violin sound.
Yeah, it made me... I can't remember. It's like on one of the Bizarre albums again, where they're like in the booth freestyle and they're trying to get Rude Boy to rap or whatever, and then and they're like doing these terrible rhymes, but it's almost this exact same beat with the like bing in the background, or doo 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 doo. You know, like it's just a simple like 3-part beat, you know, but it's good.
That's funny. Yeah, I wrote. It reminded me of Vampiro in the studio.
There you go. Yeah, or that one. Same thing.
Yeah, and then I also wrote $85 an hour.
Yep. Well, especially that freestyle at the end. It has the like exact same ending.
Yeah.
I think we should actually probably address, for those of you who are listening and notice that Steve sounds a little bit different in this half of the podcast. We were having some lag issues, so Steve's actually on the phone.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we all like this song, right? Steve, do you have thoughts about this song, Steve? Tell us what you think.
Well, I do have thoughts about this song, and I felt like I listened to this and I thought of it in a lot bigger realm. And they start off with like carrying on from Carnival of Carnage of like, this is the world you created. Like, you know, you richies created this and now we're coming for you. It's still like that type of atmosphere of these songs. And so they come across as like they're going after these richies. There's like a line where they talk about like, you're going to go to sleep on your gold bed. And so like it feels like they're going after rich people. But if you really listen to the meat of the music or you know, the meat of the lyrics, they're just going into suburbs. They're going into like middle income and upper middle income neighborhoods and killing quote unquote normal people. You know, they're not really in these songs. I don't feel like they're really going after the upper 1%. You know, they're going after the normal people, and they come from extreme poverty, and I believe that they said it. I believe it, and so middle income does seem very rich. But if you look at it at an overall arch, they go from extreme poverty to being rich themselves, and never really like spend much time in that middle income. So they're never really normal. So when they're super poor, killing normal people is okay. And then it almost seems like when they're rich, killing poor is okay, because there are these extremes on either end and it's still not normal.
Well, I thought my thoughts on the EPs were always that they were just like B-sides and tracks that didn't make it on the album or whatever. And then they just threw them all together onto an EP to sell something in between the major albums. But then as we got into this song, I started thinking or questioning, are they trying to like do a theme here? Because I felt like in Beverly Kills, they're very openly talking about this like these like rich, wealthy kids and being in their environment. And then in 17 Dead, they're talking about what it's like where they live and how bad it is, and that there's dead people around, but people don't even care. They're kind of painting this picture of them being different, you know, because of the environment that they live in again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I think the theme of this album is definitely like attacking the more affluent, attacking the suburbs. Like that's definitely a through line on the CP.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like an overall theme that goes throughout their music, though. Like I feel like this is like the beginning of saying they're attacking the rich, but they're really not attacking the rich. They're attacking the middle class, and I feel like they're more like attacking the normal people because they're not normal. And it's easy to say we're going to kill the rich, but you know, people don't have beds of gold in the suburbs.
But to me, I think 90210 is, even though it is like an elite rich society that's being depicted on the TV show, it's like the reason ICP's mad at them is not necessarily because of their wealth, it's their that they're like
Yeah.
that they suck and they're soft people because they live in this
Yeah.
cushy life. Whereas in 17 Dead, he's like talking to, I picture this like factory owner or somebody, a guy with a cigar in his mouth, this like fat cat that lives in a big mansion up on a hill. Like that's the person that he's singing to, the guy who owns all the factories or whatever.
But throughout that, I mean, because there is like 8 verses in that song, and just a lot of the song is about being in like suburb neighborhoods, and not even just the fat cat guy on the hill.
They look at that world as it's like on the outside, and all of these people that have all of these things, like they don't really have morality, or at least their morality is clearly flawed.
No, and I agree, and I think, and my point at the end was about like jumping far ahead, where they go from being poor to being rich, and still killing what they would say is affluent people when it's still the middle class that's the people they target, because it's still not them, because they're still not in that subgroup. Like they kind of like skip the whole normal going from rags to riches kind of a thing. So I feel like no matter where they're at, there's like this justifiable, like, that's not us.
Absolutely.
And if they're rich, it's because they did it in a good way. And they did. And there's no taking away from that. It's not what I mean. I just feel like there's just like this overarching easy out to we're not the norm, because we've been on both sides of the bell curve.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Much deeper thoughts on 17 Dead than I was expecting. And I appreciate it.
I apologize for
No.
that.
This is what we're looking for, man. I wanted to point out some lyrics real quick from the song itself. I'm sure all of you noticed this. Am I in a Southwest street gang? Do I bang? Do I slang? Do I let my motherfucking nuts hang? But do you care? I got stabbed in the eye and you wasn't nowhere. And what about the time I got fucked? When I got shot in the throat, fucking sucked. But your news wasn't on that. And then I really liked his flow when he said you could give a fuck less, nevertheless, unless.
Well, you almost got. I was curious how far you're gonna go with that, because my favorite line in that verse is when he says, "I don't give a fuck where you're from, boy. So don't tell me, 'cause I don't give a fuck." Like it's it's pretty playful, of
Very
J
good.
there. Yeah, he's having a good time.
You really see them on this whole album. You see them just getting loosey-goosey. And that's when they start getting good.
Right.
Because we talked about this. In Carnival of Carnage, they're all so concerned. They're like, we're making a rap album. We're making a real album. And it's very evident of like, we can't fuck anything up. We got to make sure everything is on point. And they're so focused on making themselves sound like a real rap group that most of the time it's very rigid and they don't allow themselves to play in the space. So the outro of this song is a bunch of people going, yo, and it's sort of a freestyle, and they go like sort of back and forth, and then maybe it's real freestyles. I doubt most of it is, but I liked Shaggy saying, well, I'm Shaggy and I'm in the house. You don't think so? I'll put a brick in your mouth. And I realize now that I'm looking back on it that he means he's going to throw a brick at them, but it evoked for me the imagery of Shaggy placing a brick in someone's mouth.
Right, just gently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just picture like just biting on the corner of a brick like you're testing out a gold coin in a Western or something.
Well, he sings
but
about
I liked,
that later.
Yes. I like Jay saying, well, I'm coming straight out of the trailer park. That's me out front working on the Skylark. I'm waiting on a check. I don't cut the grass. And my woman's got babies falling all out her ass. I also liked him. I think it's too dope then. Says I'll be running with the carnival until I'm 80. Because tonight I'm going out with the fat lady. I strip her down to the nitty gritty. But I ain't saying shit about her wooden titty. And, I mean, not a famous verse, but they've talked about, like, on one of the bazaars, Twisted and ICP are trading your mama jokes. And I believe it's Shaggy. Someone says, your mama's got a glass titty with a screw-on nipple. But the idea of a wooden titty is so funny. And, like, it cracks everyone up on the track. Like, people just start laughing, and then that's the end of the track. And then Shaggy or someone in the background says Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah, they're like a Wu-Tang call out right there.
Yeah, it's like a cipher.
Brooklyn Zoo. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ryan. I just wanted to jump in and say a couple of things. In the second and third episodes of Carnival of Carnage, we talked about the different track orders on the pressings of the album. And we got an email from a listener, Jeremy. So I want to say what's up, Jeremy. He explained that, there was a self-released album that had the original tracks on it. And then in 1998, when they got signed to Island, they re-released those albums under that record label. And they removed Black in Your Eyes and Night of the Axe. But then he also said that he found like a used copy in a record store that had the Island logo with all the tracks. So who fucking knows? There's no rhyme or reason. It's all fucked up. But I did post a photo of the backs of the two CDs that I found with a different track list on them, which is kind of cool, over on the Dim Carnival Instagram account. So we'll try to post stuff over there of things that we talk about or things related to the conversation, little extra stuff. And then also, if anybody else has any questions or comments, things that we got wrong, if you want to call us idiots, you can email us at dimcarnival@gmail.com. And now I'll let you guys get back to the show. Thanks, bye. Yeah, man. Well, I don't have much to say about this next song, so maybe we can get through it quickly.
My pink Volkswagen, excuse me, how? But I'm Violent J, act like you know.
Violent J, the country singer?
No, Violent J, the Southwest gangster rock.
The Stalker is 7 minutes and 50 seconds long, if you can believe it. The entirety of my notes on this track are 2 words. Just bad.
Just bad. I wrote a lot more words than that. I wrote, "This is not a good song." And my last notes were, "Just one very long song this time." Fucking scary ass voicemails. So the Stalker it's a song that Violent J made, I assume, because of this. At the end, there's a real recording of a man who was stalking his then girlfriend, who left those voicemails for her. So that's those are real, which makes it really fucking scary. And when you listen to it, I think most people probably assume that they're real because they're so odd and chilling.
But they have that weird music playing in the background.
I mean, that really adds to it. I mean, these clowns, they know their horror movies. They know how to build, an atmosphere.
But it's from the point of view of a stalker called Violent J. But in the song, Violent J is stalking someone, and the interludes are like a woman talking about her stalker, like in therapy or something. And it's just bad. It's long and it's not good and it's creepy.
Right. So it's not a good song. It's not fun to listen to. It's terrible subject matter. So there's nothing that's redeeming about it. But in terms of talking about it in the context of ICP, it made me think about a couple of things. One is, we were talking about Psychopathics from Outer Space before. On the first song, Dirtball, I believe, there's a lyric where he says, they're talking about Earthlings, and they're like, oh yeah, they love to watch horror movies, but you're not allowed to be scary on a CD. And that's one thing that I think a lot about, is what I said earlier about this kind of what space are they in? What are they trying to do? And sometimes I think they're just trying to tell a story similar to a horror movie. And if you saw this, this is a screenplay or whatever for a basic horror movie that you would see. It's not controversial in that context. But I don't know, or maybe it should be. But I thought that was interesting. And then so I started to think about, are they making fun of stalkers? Are they trying to make them seem pathetic? In some cases, but then they're also glamorizing violence and stuff like that. So are they trying then to make fun of everyone? Is that maybe what their goal is with the song? Is to put everybody off and make everybody feel uncomfortable?
I think that's part of it, but I think they're making people uncomfortable in the service of, I think that this song pretty clearly says stalkers are fucked up and you shouldn't aspire to be this.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, because he clearly says that. Because at the end, where Shaggy and the other people in the background saying, "Yeah, go on and stalk that ass" or whatever, and he's saying, "No, man, she doesn't like me," and they keep egging him on, and he keeps saying, "No, she doesn't like me," and then it goes into that right after it stops after that, it goes into the really creepy, like 3-minute long answering machine thing. So I felt like, yeah, I agree that it was made to be like a horror movie. And even in the song, I kind of like saw visions of Halloween where she jabs him in the eye or something, like she gets at him or shoots him or the dad shoots him at the end.
Yeah, she sticks a broom handle in his eye.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Scoop his
And
eye
so,
up and put it
and
back
that's why I think, yeah, and that's where I got the image of like Halloween where she sticks the hanger in Michael Myers' eye. So I saw it in the terms of that, and it didn't glorify it, especially because of at the end how it said all those things. And then, but no matter what they were trying to say, even if they were trying to be like, yeah, stalkers are bad, like that 3-minute interlude with the creepy music and that guy doing the phone call, like that's super triggering to anyone who has some kind of PTSD or has been stalked or, you know what I mean? Like that's a really scary thing to listen to.
Absolutely. It's fucking chilling.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I listened to it. It creeps me out, you know, as someone who hasn't experienced that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I mean, obviously a big part of ICP from day one is they're trying to make social commentary. You know, all of Carnival of Carnage is about how the ruling class created a freak show of a ghetto and it'll come home to roost. And also bigots are a huge problem. And that's a theme that's continued. Like there's a lot of problems in the world. And there's a lot of fucked up people who do fucked up things. And they just, especially at this point in their careers, they don't understand how to make social commentary because they're still kids. And all they know is that there are injustices. And the only way that they can think of to combat the injustices is to kill fictionalized versions of people who perpetrate those injustices, but they're not even doing that well yet. So it's something that's always been there. Like we saw it very clearly on Carnival of Carnage. We're continuing to see it on the CP. Something that's always been there. But as they grow up and become adults and human beings, then they will learn how to more deftly thread that needle of I'm making a statement. Because when you're a teenager, the only way you know how to make a statement is to say, I'm making a statement.
Sure.
So they're trying to be a half step beyond that and be clever. And they are clearly very clever, but it's not enough yet.
Sure. Well, if you guys are cool with it, I would love to get into the next song.
What's your favorite song?
It's my favorite song on the album. Oh, I had no idea. Guys, this is going to be one of my top ICP songs. I love it.
Amazing. So you're loving this track that features Greasy.
Greasy. Now, let me tell you, I went down the Wikipedia rabbit hole on Greasy. Boy, oh boy.
I'm so excited. Let's go.
Well, so
famous first, Greasy.
So famous first, a new member of ICP has joined the band for one song. Here we are. Apparently reported ICP fan who met the band at some point earlier in the year is invited to be a part of the band. Wow. Amazing. And his name's Greasy, and I tried really hard. This is again where I want to call on the Juggalo historians. Is this guy not just anybody killer?
No.
Am I the only one who thinks that his voice sounds exactly the same?
No, he doesn't sound anything like Anybody Killer. Anybody Killer has a very distinct lateral lisp.
I understand that, but if you soften that lateral lisp, I feel like it's Anybody Killer. So, but I know it's not Anybody Killer, but maybe it's like his uncle.
Anybody Killer uncle.
Exactly. It would explain where Anybody Killer came from. But actually it wouldn't, because I did some research into Greasy. So Greasy was a fan. He joined ICP. And then I found out in Violent J's book, which I haven't read, Behind the Paint. Is that what it is?
I actually have a PDF of that if you guys are interested.
Well, you can verify for
Oh,
this,
yeah.
this for us, and maybe on the next episode you can tell us if it's true or not. But what we're told is that Violent J and Greasy are confronted in like an alleyway. They're gonna get beat up by some guys, and Greasy, rather than stay and fight with his supposedly like friend, you know, his bandmate, just turned and ran, and so and left Violent J to maybe. I guess he didn't get beat up, but he could have. And so Jay was like, well, fuck you, you know. If you're not going to have my back, then you're out. And that was it. The end of Greasy.
What I love, if you Google Greasy, the second result is an Urban Dictionary entry. But I like that the first sentence of this Urban Dictionary entry refers to him as the third member of the Insane Clown Posse.
Yes. Love it.
It's so good.
It's so good, man. Well,
Now this song reveals that Too Dope lives in a big pipe.
Okay, so this is right now. This is ICP fully formed, right? These guys just having a good time.
But with a bunch of gay slurs.
Okay, so the song starts and I'm listening and I'm like, this is a terrible song. This is what I wrote.
Right.
This is a terrible song. This is appealing to no one. And then something happens. All of a sudden it's like record scratch, new track, new beat.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
They're like, fuck that song. This is a new song.
Right.
But it's still the same song.
Right.
Remix halfway through.
Right. I wrote, oh, okay, we weren't to the song yet. Oh, this is obviously they're singing about Haughs now. So we're in the Haugh. I get it. We're in the Haugh. Oh, then I was two more. Oh, wait, no. Is this song? Okay, this is actually a good song. Interesting. All right, here we are. It's great. It's a wonderful song. And Violent J, he's super funny in it, man.
And so is Too Dope. Because sometimes I get hungry, man. But it ain't nothing in the box but a brick sandwich. So I start hurting that motherfucker and chew on that bitch until my jaw breaks. Which don't fade me, because I'm a hoodlum. And I don't exist to
I'm
you
a
fucks.
hoodlum.
You green grass fucks. I bet your grass is green, asshole.
But here it is. The Carnival of Carnage is in town, and I apparently they're going to go to somebody's house together. I feel like the chorus is really strong in this song. The rest of the song, I could take it or leave it. Like a lot of ICP songs, I don't really care what the words are saying. Are they fun to say? Is there a weird, funny voice? Cool. I like it. But this one does have a I don't know who Chris Conley is. That's not the lead singer of Soundgarden, right?
Chris Conley was from MTV News, right?
Oh yeah, Chris Conley. Well, I don't think he played the guitar on this track, but Wikipedia credits Chris Conley as doing that. And there's a pretty sick bass solo thing that he does at the end, which is outstanding. Really gets wild on that fretboard, like a do-do-do-do kind of thing.
Oh no, it's a really fun track. Goofball. I love that Shaggy feels like he needs to explain that when he says he's shit-faced and it means he actually has shit on his face. I thought that was great. I like how he said his brain is a lemon and it's yellow and shit. And so I was like, does he have cirrhosis? Brain? Or like, so things like that popped out. It was really funny to me. So yeah, it's a great track. I really enjoy it.
I mean, and Greasy's first line when he kicks off his verse, it's amazing. Because he comes in and he says, I'm greasy and I could do the moonwalk, but I don't because that shit's so fucking played out. Like, right on, man. Yeah, I see why they picked you.
But what does he do instead of moonwalk?
He's just gonna grab his wing and tell you that he's in the Haugh.
That's right.
Doesn't also he say something about having parachute pants and moon boots, and then like ends up being butt naked?
Oh yeah, he's butt naked. There's no reason.
Greasy also butt naked, which I think was really important in the ICP mythos, is that if you ever hope to aspire to be one of the third members of ICP, you're gonna end up on the corner butt naked at some point.
That's right.
Also, he lets his nuts float.
Well, I mean, what else do they? I mean,
No,
he's got the stretch nuts and the drag nuts. Like, Their nuts are doing all kind of crazy things in ICP. You got to have talented nuts to be in this band.
Mhm. One last note I had about the song was just at the end, there's like a lot of Shaggy yelling, and he had like really heroin voice, and I think he's only like at this point 17 or 18. So I was like really impressed on how low his voice is, unless it was someone else making some of those noises. But there's just a lot of like yelling and stuff at the end of that song.
I really like the end of the song because they do, maybe this is another first, where they have a bunch of call outs to their friends and family at the end of the track, and it just kind of plays itself out, you know?
Yeah.
And so even though, what's his name, Mike Clark's not on this album at all, right? He didn't produce any of these songs, but he gets a shout out at the end of, of this track.
Mm.
And Jump Steady, he's not on anything, but he's on there.
They're always just around.
And bringing up the rear is Mr. T. Like, you got to give a shout out to Mr. T. You said, "Hey, what's up" to Prince in the first track, so make sure you get all your heroes in.
Well, sorry, I just remembered we joked about it at the top of the show, but we didn't actually talk about them saying "in mi barrio" on 17 Dead.
They say that.
Right.
It's true. Steve said I was going to point out the shit-faced thing, and I was going to point out the other thing that Steve mentioned, but I just like reading these lyrics. My mind ain't nothing but a lemon. I mean, it's fucking yellow and shit. I don't know, man. Fuck off. Like, again, Shaggy Tudo makes kind of a joke, but then just stops because he gets offended that someone might be questioning his rap.
He's very defensive.
Well, his two solo albums are called "Fuck Off" and "Fuck the Fuck Off."
He just wants to be left alone. Yeah.
He just wants to grab this wang. All right. Any in the Haugh thoughts before we move on to Chop Chop?
I just love this song, In the Haugh. I don't know why you're listening to this podcast if you haven't listened to these songs, but if you haven't,
Weber.
go listen. Yeah, Weber, go listen to In the Haugh. It's fun. It's a good time. And then so now moving on, we're on to Chop Chop.
Chop Chop.
Keystone Kappa trying to get me, but I pack a French curler with me. And the officer let me off quick. Here's a Dunkin' double dip, you fat piece of shit.
Chop Chop. The hook is an Ice Cube sample. Swing, 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 chop, chop, chop. Which they will later revisit in a very different fashion, where them just going swing, 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 chop, chop, chop. But here it's an Ice Cube sample.
Yeah, and that's from My Axe, right?
Yeah, it's really good. I'm excited for a few years from now when we get to the good stuff.
Yeah, My Axe is a good song. So, but the thing starts with another answer machine message of which I believe is too dope. It could be Ijam, I don't know. Leaving a little bit of another freestyle, right? These guys are really showing their lyrical abilities on this album, where he talks about plucking his testicle hairs.
And gluing them to someone's back.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's where that's a better place for them to go.
He says, take some tweezers and bust every hair on my nutsack, which is, I guess, different from bust every nut on my hair sack.
Not the same thing. But what I wrote was that they should just go straight to the song. Like, they haven't done a good job on interludes or skits on this album. Just go straight to the song, because the song's not that bad. It's all right.
Yeah, I would say it's like third or fourth best song on the EP.
I'd say it's like, it's about as good as Beverly Kills, but less memorable. Like, I don't remember much about it, but I was trying to look up what the sample was, and it's funny because I didn't put it together now, but I had read that there was an Ice Cube sample in that track, but I couldn't track down specifically what the swing, swing, swing sample was. I was trying to find that. And there was, somehow it led me to a Tribe Called Quest album that came out at the same time, and they used the same lyric, swing, 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 chop, chop, chop.
It's a sample from Horny Little Devil.
Ah.
Off the album Death Certificate.
Well,
because if you just go to the lyrics on Genius, it has annotations.
Well, and so that's good. I'm glad that you know that, because I didn't know where the origin was and if they were both referencing the same thing or if it was a coincidence, because both albums came out in the same year within months of each other, and there's just no way that there could be that coincidence.
I think it's just like everyone was listening to Death Certificate, so they were like, "Oh, we're gonna take that part. We're gonna take that part." Like,
Yeah, I like that in our like second episode I talked about how Death Certificate isn't that great of a record.
Right, but I mean, regardless of how good it is, like especially in hindsight, like when an Ice Cube album came out in 1991 or whatever the fuck, like everyone listened to that album.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Did you know that my dad forbade me to listen to rap music until I was like 13?
No, but that doesn't surprise me. It's crazy
Right.
to me. I had like doing some research like into this kind of thing. I had the memory of being in a warehouse music with my mom and the NWA album that came out in '91. I remember.
Full Forzaga?
Yeah. So that one that had come out, and I asked my mom if I could buy it. And she's like, sure, Ryan, of course, you're 10, you're smart enough to make your own decisions. And I was like, do you know what NWA stands for, Mom? And she's like, no, I don't. And then I told her, and she's like, can never say that word out loud. Like, don't ever do that. You're 10.
Why'd you blow? You blew it. Like, I like that when we're kids, like we have this need to narc on ourselves.
Right,
Like,
I could have just bought
in the
it.
clear. You had been given the go ahead, and you had to second guess the fact that she was giving you the go ahead.
Yeah, years later, I would be hiding Snoop Dogg and Warren G records in my closet because I didn't want my mom to know that I was listening to rap music. But I was fine telling her that I knew about NWA when I was 10.
I wanted to point out this lyric from the song. Oh, I might as well mention that I come from another dimension, which is great. Just a nice little piece of the mythos there. But it took me endless seconds to figure out what he meant when he said, Keystone Copper try to get me, but I pack a French curler with me. He very clearly says curler. And I didn't know if he was talking about a gun, if he was talking about like some Detroit reference or whatever, but it's just ICP not knowing that crawler is a word. I also wanted to point out Isham, because Isham's on this song.
He is.
It says wicked clown, which is cool. Jay then says, what's up comes down. And Isham responds, before my nuts go soft, juggle them around. I don't know what that means at all, but it really disturbs me to think about your nuts being hard and you want to... Okay, it disturbs me to think about your nuts being hard, period. But it further disturbs me that Isham is requesting, like, hey, hurry up and juggle my nuts because they're gonna go soft and we gotta be on top of this.
So, I don't know. They're doing this kind of call back and forth. It's very homoerotic.
Right.
Violent J.
Because he
Violent
says,
J's
want to
talking
join
about
the...
jerking off.
No, I want to be very specific here. Violent J, it's the line immediately following. Violent J says, want to join the carnival circus, grab my ding-a-ling, and jerk this.
Yeah, so he's talking about he's talking about jacking off. Isham is requesting to have his nuts juggled. So who are they talking to? I don't know. Oh, then Isham reveals. Well, maybe, but then Isham reveals, no, I'm actually fucking newborn bloody baby heads.
He
so
drills them.
That's what he's getting excited about.
What is funny is there's an annotation on newborn babies' heads I drill where someone says, this is the only line Psychopathic Records has ever censored due to it just being too evil in general. And a man responds to that not just 3 months ago. Someone responds to that annotation saying, definitely not the only time they've done that. Which is hilarious on a lot of levels, not least of which they do it in another point of this EP.
Well, my big takeaway from Chop Chop was them mentioning that they come from another dimension. On a bigger level of the ethos, I feel them saying them coming from another dimension makes them more than just, they kind of painted themselves in the first album and up until this point as being just serial killer clowns, and they almost could just be something weird like Gacy. But then by saying they're from another dimension, they've like turned themselves into like a comic book character, and it makes them bigger, and it makes more sense why they don't die. And they just become more iconic, and it makes it really starts to fill out their storyline. And it's just a quick line in a song, come from another dimension, but it stood out to me as it like plays into the ethos of their story later on down the road. So I like that.
And that's what's really cool about listening to this old stuff, even though like a lot of the times it's a real struggle because they don't know what the fuck they're doing yet, is they're trying to build a universe and they don't even understand that they're trying to build a universe yet. They're just trying to create a feeling. And after they start trying to create a feeling, then they start trying to create a world. And then eventually they create a universe and a mythology. But they know enough to lay little pieces of brick and mortar. And it's us just going back and finding it. It's not like a retcon or anything. It was there, and they definitely just built on top of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. It's cool to think about. While you were talking, I was kind of going over the lyrics to see if anything would jog my memory, and there's a line where he says he can do a double flip, and I started thinking about ninjas and that whole theme, all those elements, and I was looking at some pictures of Jay before around this time online, these younger pictures of him, and he was a pretty spry guy compared to the Violent J that we know and love, the big old giant bear of a man. I don't know. Let's just think about them being young and energetic or whatever. It's kind of cool.
Let's talk about the last track, which is 8 minutes and 31 seconds long. It is called Choke Your Mind. And I only have one note here. This is a prototype of the ICP album ending ballad. It's the first one ever, because Carnival of Carnage doesn't end on a ballad. It ends on whatever the fuck it ended on.
Right.
But this becomes an absolutely indispensable staple of ICP, is that the album's going to end on either a poignant or an uplifting mid-tempo or ballad. And it's going to be grounded in reality or grounded in something that happens in our world that's going to be a version of like really makes you think or really makes you be appreciative, and then just like keeps like repeating and repeating and repeating for minutes on end.
That is literally the almost identical words that I wrote.
Hooray!
Yeah, it's the here it is. It's the last song on the album, right? Like every new ICP album, if you guys have that memory, when you put it in your car and maybe it takes you a few drives to get through every track, and then something comes on and you feel yourself kind of being taken away. And that's even lyrics that they use in one of them. I can't remember which one, was like, take me away. And there's that, they've done it for the first time, this kind of like transportive song that the album doesn't end. It like carries you off to a place and like sets you down.
Do you guys remember how it really ends? It does that, but it ends with the Stalker.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like, yeah, I was agreeing with you, and I was like, yeah, it takes you to a place, and I looked down at and one of the last words I wrote was trigger music. Because that's what it is, and I was like, oh yeah, it is with the Stalker.
And I think that's
sorry.
No, you didn't bring me down about it. I just forgot about it. But I think that's also what makes this the prototype ICP ballad, is because they're reminding you this is a concept album, because the end of them is just like a gunshot and then be like, the Stalker. And like, but don't forget, like, there's still fucked up people out there. I think that the way the album ends is the most clever part of the Stalker being part of the album, is like, oh, the shittiest part of the album, like, is here to remind you that, like, but like, I mean, I'm sure they don't think the Stalker's the shittiest part of the album, but it's still like, hey, this character's still there.
It's the greasy, grimy, like you're the hero in this, going into this song, the sympathetic character is like the homeless guy, right? That's trying to find a place to sleep. And then he has this, what I assume is like a dream, or that's how I read it when I was listening, about this place or whatever. And I like that they start putting in the imagery of like this like heavenly kind of utopian place or whatever that the carnival's going to eventually become. But then at the end, a guy, he wakes up, right? Somebody wakes him up on the street. You know, I thought at first like maybe it's a cop that's going to tell him to move along or whatever. And then it ends up being the stalker that kills him. So it's that greasy, grimy, you know, piece of shit. And I think that's how they see themselves. That's the part of the stalker that they see in themselves, is that loser. That's the not the anti-hero, the active villain.
Yeah. I think that it is totally in keeping with like what makes this song good and gives the song The Stalker a reason for existing, because it's like you can't escape the shitty reality of the actual world.
Yeah, I dig that too.
Yeah.
So I love the repeating outro.
I'll allow it.
All that stuff. But as I said earlier, I was listening to this on YouTube, and so then while it was doing the repeating outro, I just started scrolling down to see the comments, and I'm definitely on team don't read the comments, but
Right.
But I did in this case, and I'm really glad that I did, because some of them are quite funny, quite illuminating. But my favorite one was very simple. It was just 5 words. Hands down, their best release.
All right.
So, 5 stars. Beverly Kills 5187. That's the best one, you guys. But you did say, Bill, this track is 8.5 minutes long. It's the longest track on the album. But oddly, not much longer than every other track, because the shortest track on the album is over 5 minutes long. And or is it in the Haugh that's like 7.5 minutes long, almost 8 minutes long?
I think in the Haugh.
Yeah, so there's like there's only 6.
The Stalker is nearly 8 minutes long because of the 3-minute phone call.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's technically 6 tracks on this album, and it's 50 fucking minutes long.
Yeah, it's very long.
That actually counts as a full-length album. Granted, there is like 9 songs on that album.
Yeah,
There
there's
truly
not
are.
6 songs.
Right, there
There's
truly
at least
are.
10
There's 12
songs.
songs on this album. I'm adding them up right now.
12 songs on
The
this
first
album.
2 songs are 5 songs. So
But yeah, I thought way better experience than I was expecting. I think the pieces are really falling into place. They're going to pick up on Ringmaster, and then by the time we get to Riddle Box, it's going to be like fucking off to the races.
hell yeah, you could do a lot worse than listening to 3 of these. 3 out of 6 of these songs are I would say worth your time to check out.
Don't listen to the Stalker, but everything else is fine.
Yeah.
But next week, we get to the second Joker's card. Guys, we're going to do Ringmaster Part 1, and we're going to do the first 5 tracks off of Ringmaster next week. So for next week, go to Spotify, go to YouTube, go wherever you got to go, iTunes, whatever, and you're going to be listening to Wax Museum, Murder Go Round, Chicken Huntin', Mr. Johnson's Head, and Southwest Song. And these songs average 5 minutes apiece.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. I love all those songs.
Yeah. And it's not the Chicken Huntin' you're thinking of.
No.
So
No, it's not.
So
Certainly
let's regroup next week at the same Dim Carnival time, same Dim Carnival channel. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thank you to the 2 of you for making every time we get together an absolute treat and pleasure. Check out our Instagram, our Twitter, Dim Carnival. If you want to send us some thoughts on which parts of 50187 you loved or hated, dimcarnival@gmail.com. And as always, we're going to come up with a clever sign-off. This is Bill.
This is Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And until next week, swing, 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 chop, chop, chop. the Lotus Pod.
You off a juggalo's dick.
Say
Body.
My
Looking
big
at the
dick.
shit. It's big.
Your big
It's
dick.
big.
Your big dick.